close to 90%, 85 to 90% of the people that are landing on your website each month, they're not even your customers.
Nope.
So how are you retailing to them? How are you capturing them? So the juice is worth the squeeze. And the lot of the dealers and forward-thinking dealers that are participating in de-anonymization are, it just depends on who you're doing it with, and there's different methods, and we can talk about that.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of The Drive. Today, I'm in Newport Beach, California. All right, we are here at the Streaming Automotive event that is sponsored by and put together by Evolution Media Group. If you guys don't know who they are, you need to check out the Evolution Media Group. Today, I have the one, the only, the famous Curtis Degroote. What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy? Thanks for having me. Yeah, it has been.
I'm glad we got a chance to go do this. We've been talking about this for a while. Like, we got to go for a drive sometime, man.
Never in the same areas.
I know. I'm so glad this worked out. And it's beautiful, beautiful Newport Beach, California, gorgeous. Man. This is gorgeous. Hey, Curtis, what I like to do to kick off these podcasts is get a little origin story because probably I'm just fascinated. Like, I'm fascinated. Yeah. So how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Well, years ago, I started selling cars, and and then I realized pretty quickly into it, leading the board, of course, selling mostly used cars back in the day, and that was 29 years ago. And what I figured out is that I could do a better job supporting the auto industry if I got into a support role, such as marketing. I joined a company then, ad agency way back in the day, did sales events, learned it all, then got into automated marketing and built 7 different software platforms, and so 29 years later, here I am.
You got bit by the automotive bug, and then you got bit by the data bug.
Yeah.
And look, dude, I do consider you to be one of my data nerd friends.
Yes.
Because it feels like when we connect, over a drink or just catching up, like that's where we go. You know me. I love talking about it. You love talking about it. So that's what we're going to do today, guys. Is we're going to geek out a little about data. And I think the first place I think I want to geek out with you is one of our favorite places to geek out about is the de-anonymization of website traffic.
Absolutely.
And what I'd like to start with is, Curtis, is because I think that's a pretty big word. All right? Like it's
spell check
de-anonymization.
They say it's always wrong when you spell it too.
I know, I'm like trying to think, how do I spell that? But like for everybody out there watching, listening right now who may have no clue what we're talking about, let's kick it off there. What is the de-anonymization of website traffic, and how does that affect me, the dealer?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, when you talk about de-anonymization, what you're really doing is you're taking a visitor to your website, which in the United States, not in Canada, but in the United States, they allow you to de-anonymize the visitor to your website. I'm not sure if it's part of the Castle Doctrine or what, but it does allow you to know who's on your website, the law. Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is we've kind of advanced some technology along, and there's a lot of big players out there that are starting to do it. They have different methods and stuff like that. But for the dealer, I guess what I would say is if you've got literally 2 or 3% that you're getting lead forms of visitors each month, yep. What about the 97% that you don't know about? And that's where de-anonymization comes in as a useful utility for any dealer, really.
Well, that's huge. I mean, if you're talking, if you're listening and watching this and you're getting 5,000 plus unique visitors, we're talking about the 2 to 3% that will actually make themselves known, mm-hmm. but then that monster 98 some odd percent that don't make themselves known.
Yeah, well, and I think what a lot of dealers, so there's a couple metrics we know about because we've done this for a while now. We built an entire follow-up program for those visitors. And the reason why is because we had a theory that maybe the person who's on the website that you're de-anonymizing them, maybe they're higher up in the funnel, right? Yep. And I think we all experienced that 2 to 3% closing at 13%, those leads that are coming off the website closing at 13% on average. That's a pretty good nest egg for those dealers. But what they're missing is that other piece of the pie is all the follow-ups of people maybe just, maybe they saw their ad, they clicked on it, they ended up on the website, but they didn't see what they wanted. And now you've got follow-ups going out to these people. What we do know is that 10 to 12% of those visitors are database customers. And that's a good metric to know, because that means
very important to know, right?
it is, yeah, because close to 90%, 85 to 90% of the people that are landing on your website each month, they're not even your customers.
Nope.
So how are you retailing to them? How are you capturing them? So the juice is worth the squeeze. And the lot of the dealers and forward-thinking dealers that are participating in de-anonymization are, it just depends on who you're doing it with, and there's different methods, and we can talk about that, or we can move on to other things.
No, look, because I think that's super important. I mean, look, as a dealer, I spend tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to drive people to this online experience.
Yep.
And for the longest time, I was only ever to capture just a wee little bit of the people there. And look, it's not that this technology is necessarily new; it's been around, but it just hasn't been so accessible.
Yeah.
And I think that's what dealers really need to be thinking about right now. It's just, guys, this isn't snake oil. It's not pie in the sky. This is accessible to you right now.
Yeah, it's available
right? And you guys are already doing an amazing job of driving them to this online experience, but now you're able to capture, we're talking 30, 40 times more than what you were capturing before. And actually, hey, look, I know this. This is one thing I do know about dealers, all right? Somebody walks out in your lot and one of your people don't go out and say, hi, how are you doing? You will lose your mind. We're pretty much talking about the digital version of that, don't you think?
Yeah. I've had conversations with dealers who have said that very same thing, that to their sales staff, saying, listen, guys, when we talk about doing this, when we talk about de-anonymizing the website visitors, we would never allow either a lack of TO or not even taking the up in the first place. We would never allow that to happen on the lot. And why would we? That's crazy. And so yet here we are in 2024, and we've got people visiting the website, and the dealers are not at all getting the kind of traffic that they need on the showroom floor like they used to. Well, they're not. They're digitally trafficking the website at this point. Mm-hmm. Why don't we identify them? And I think part of it was originally because I had worked on a project at a company prior to this with one of my team members where we worked on de-anonymization as well. And what we found is that it was so cost prohibitive before it came into automotive. Now, 5 years later, it's not cost prohibitive anymore. Guys that have been collecting data, that have a database and be able to de-anonymize the people on the website, it's a very big possibility. And now that we've built a follow-up sequence, and we hope other people, because we can't have all the dealers, we hope that other people will build it too, where you've actually got communications that are going out to these people, and understanding that these people will or will not go down that road with us. That's a fun part of the business, because.
But at least you came out and you said hi. You engaged with them. I'm just surprised to see. I'm not surprised. Actually, I think this is just a monster opportunity. All right, that if your dealership isn't currently doing this and you're watching and listening right now, Curtis is amazing. Reach out to him. He would love to have a conversation with you about it. And then the cool thing is, even if you don't end up using Curtis, there's, he'll loves sharing his knowledge and his passion around this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one monster one, but there are some other opportunities that we've kind of talked about. So let's talk a little bit about fixed ops, because I love talking about fixed ops.
I know that you love fixed operations.
Right. Tell me, one of the opportunities that you've identified recently.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that, and here's what's interesting about the pandemic. So during the pandemic, you had all these people making tons of money, dealers making tons of money. The inventory shortage added it's kind of the cherry on top of that. I think they said profitability is down 12.5% to 15% across the board for most dealers on sheer profit. And that's because inventories come back, and but we haven't sold as many customers, right? So now we're going to sell more customers. Well, one of the things that is becoming popular again is a process that not a whole lot of people are good at. It's called service to sales conversion. And that's what the average dealership has, about 60% of their database that they didn't sell cars to, right?
Exactly.
But they love their service department, right? They love the service advisor, service director, all that. But they didn't sell any cars to them. So most of the tech tools out there are shying away from that segment of the market, right? And the reason why is because they don't really have the payoff on the vehicle, and they don't want to say something, what. So what they do is they just don't do anything. Well, these modern dealers, like we do some work with the Valley High Group out in Victorville, and that's a good example.
Just had Brian actually in the car a minute ago.
So at the end of the day, we're able to train a process for these guys to actually take and build in a workflow for service to sales conversion. I can describe to you exactly how that works if you want.
Well, look, I think it's a great process, but like any great process or great idea, it's only as good as how well we can actually kind of execute it, right? So like let's kind of go down kind of that, because I think that's you kind of mapped out, I think, this quite impressive process. Let's talk a little bit about like kind of the steps. How do you think we should be executing this?
So one of the things that we've learned is that you can convert through communication. Mm-hmm. You can convert people into sales customers a couple different ways. One of the ways that you can do it is through just a sheer offer with no vehicle value. You just putting an offer out there, and you get a handful of folks. It's about an 8-to-1 ratio, meaning 8 sales customers or purchase and lease customers renewed for every service customer. And so you can do it organically, right? That works. The other way is actually getting engaged in the service drive and having a conversation with the customer, which, by the way, you can also do over the phone too. But you're reaching out to these customers, and the purpose of the call is basically you're a VIP customer. We're reaching out to you because we have some information that we want to distribute to you. But we notice that it doesn't include your trade, and we'd really like to include your trade. And so through a series of just maybe two inputs, data inputs, you can literally plug in data, and now that particular customer is going to get an equity-based quote, whereas previously you didn't know what their equity position was.
Well, it is creating engagement, and I think that's kind of what the key. I mean, one of the biggest benefits of this is that we're talking about like getting into a conversation, right? This isn't a lead. Like the intent behind this particular process is not just to generate a lead, but actually to generate a conversation, right? Because I mean, maybe this is the dealer side of me kicking in or something like that, but like I can't sell something to a first name, last name, and an email address, but get me in a conversation with somebody, man, and I will. Yeah. I will more than likely convince them to purchase something.
Absolutely. And I think good car guys having those conversations, which, by the way, you will find out that if you have, let's say you have a database of 20,000 customers, and you start talking to every one of those, you're going to find deals in your own service drive with your own customers who are darkening your door now and getting oil changes and tire rotations and all their, whatever work they need to get done in the service drive. You can convert those people into sales customers pretty effectively, honestly, and at a reduced rate. So the juice is worth the squeeze.
That's going to be the title of this podcast, by the way.
The juice is worth the squeeze?
100%, because, we've talked about a couple now opportunities where the juice is worth it.
That's right. Well, I mean, listen, nowadays the dealers are looking at ways to strategically go after these people and convert them without having to spend $100 million, right? It's
look, I think
the time of efficiency.
Okay, there you go. That is actually, I think, that kind of the decade that we're in, right? I mean, I think that's, I hate to ever identify a positive thing that comes out of a real negative, time, for the industry. But look, I think for a lot of us out there, we've learned that we can do a lot with less. And,
Absolutely.
As long as we really just kind of take the time, we identify the process, we identify the people that are going to execute, and then we support that process and people with the right technology, we can effectively do a lot with a lot less than we have in the past. And that, honestly, dude, that gets me excited, because it's not this spray and pray, method that we've executed for so many years. It's like these, if you want to call them a campaign or strategies, it's like you have to look at it from those particular 3 things. Like, what's my process? Who are the people going to execute that process? And what is the technology that's going to wrap all that together?
So I have a story I want to share with you. It's about Honda of downtown Los Angeles, and I mean, it's this isn't going to be rocket science. This is going to be kind of a household process going forward. So about 6 months ago, and I want to give credit to Matt Kellogg. He's their director of marketing. Also want to give credit to Sean Stapleton of Dealer Teamwork. So we entered in on a project for 2 stores in LA, a Hyundai store and then the Honda store. And what we did is we took that, and going back to what we first talked about, which is the de-anonymization of data on their website, right? So we had a fair amount of data from both stores,
Yes.
More so for Honda, but at Hyundai, we took that data, and what we did is we provided it to Dealer Teamwork, and Dealer Teamwork then took that data, and by the way, we don't sell data, we just provided it to them, right?
Yes.
So they took this, and this de-anonymization data is 327 fields, name, address, city, state, zip, everything on that person, right? We get that from M1, and M1 has been a great data partner of ours. Well, what we did is we gave it to Dealer Teamwork because Matt Kellogg's theory was he thinks if we take this data and we enter it into the Google network as an audience file and target for PPC, and so we've done that.
Real nice targeted group.
It does.
Yeah.
And actually what we've found both at Hyundai and now Honda is that you get about 20 to 25% increase in performance from your PPC just with the same exact budget, just by using that data. And that's another reason why the de-anonymization is so important.
Efficiencies.
Because efficiencies, yeah. So when you said that, it made me think of that story. And so, we're reaching out to and we're providing the data to Dealer Teamwork at no cost because the dealer's already paying for the data. And so any provider they have, we would do that for, because I think ultimately it makes sense for you to if you're already getting the data, just get over here. Now the next strategy is CTV and OTT.
CT and OTT, and then also social, which I'd like to I'd really kind of like to go down that rabbit hole with you as well, because we were talking a little earlier today, and you brought up a really cool strategy around social, and again, it's going to be on the same theme of everything we've been talking about so far, guys. Just efficiencies and utilizing data to be more efficient. But let's share that with everyone.
We were talking a little bit about the social media. So let's say everybody's doing social media, right?
Sure.
I think
everyone's checked off that proverbial.
They have, yeah, and it's inventory, and so we have a strategy in ours that's probably not unlike that. We're doing lead gen, and from the lead gen, we have a little bit of a different process. And the reason why we have this process is because most social media spends result in leads, if they're doing leads, that result in about a 2% close.
Yeah.
They're just not, and so a lot of dealers who are spending, $32 or more per lead, they're like, well, I'm not getting my efficiencies and this and that. Well, the reality is it's because they're high funnel.
Yes.
Okay. Same thing with the website visitors. And again, juice is worth the squeeze. You want to follow up with these people. And so what we do, we have a receipt for a customer when they fill out their lead. They immediately get a consumer portal created, and they immediately are going to get vehicle information on that vehicle,
all kind of stored in one place.
Yeah.
It's super cool little packet.
And they get this entrance, like here's your portal, and by the way, here's the loan and lease payments on that vehicle that you inquired on, because Facebook limits you on the things that you can actually transmit on their platform,
which is just another amazing engagement tool.
Yeah, because it's like you do something, you expect a response, right? And so if I get a response from the system that says, hey, we built you this portal, and you can go online and you can shop our entire inventory and look and see payments on everything. Well, that just now re-engages somebody who took it upon themselves to become a lead. Mm-hmm. Most of the CRMs today, what they do is they have an autoresponder, an auto text, and auto email, and it's kind of a canned response, right?
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's kind of where dealers, the technology hasn't caught up. That's where they kind of leave it, right? And so the problem I have with that is, we do things like, check out our reviews and hot on the lot, and, meet your salesperson, and may we text you, and when are you going to be in the market, and all these different cadences that we send to these. So we keep them engaged. I mean, you're talking about 1 to 3 emails every single month for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
So that's how you re-engage a social media visitor who has become a lead. You do the same thing for your website engagement. We have the exact same strategy for that.
Well, because you're targeting at a very certain point in their journey, right? You're not necessarily going for that higher funnel, You are, and I think that's again where this is the whole theme of this entire podcast, right?
It is.
Is just more efficient social efforts. The juice is 100% worth the squeeze. Look, I know we could easily go on for this because I love jamming with you, dude, and you're just so passionate about this stuff. But I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, so I want to make sure for everybody out there watching and listening right now, Curtis, who would like to connect with you and maybe even continue this conversation, because I think, man, we brought up some really amazing strategies and processes of just being more efficient. Like, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, I mean, listen, I don't mind handing out. I mean, I'm getting 4 calls a day for these companies trying to loan me money every single day, so I don't mind putting my cell phone number out there anyways, because the world has it. So it's 319-504-2002. And you can also learn more without committing to having a conversation at MarketPoint. One word, MarketPoint.io. MarketPoint.io. It's the website, and it's there's some testimonial video from Brad Mugg up there and how we've helped take him from 250 to 270 to over 600 now. They just set a store record, so in 2.5 years. So I mean, there's a lot of good strategies out there. We love to jam with everybody, and I always appreciate you having me on.
Dude, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate the time. For everybody out there watching, listening right now, thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. You have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.